What's up, everyone? Welcome to Level 7. It is time for another episode of the Agents of Fandom podcast. I'm your host, TJ Zwarich, ready to talk some of The Penguin, which just delivered an absolutely incredible fourth episode. Breaking it down with me, I got three wonderful analysts, three good friends. TJ, Fat Thor, how you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. This was an amazing episode, so I cannot wait to talk about it.
And joining as well, we got co-host of the Comic Corner Pod, Damon Gray. How you doing, Damon?
Dandy. Doing fantastic. Doing good.
Love it. The accent getting in there. I wish I had a good impression of that on my own so I could partake, but I don't want to make a fool of myself with my Canadian accent over here. But joining us as well, someone who can do it far better than I can, Jamie Jirak, for the second week in a row. Welcome back.
Oh, I love this episode so much. Thank you so much for having me. I can't even begin to thank you because I got your text and I said, I need to talk about this episode.
Absolutely incredible impression. Incredible episode of television. Fresh off of a Saturday Night Live this past weekend where Ariana Grande was delivering some great impressions as well. I don't know if you've ever heard her. Oh my gosh. How am I forgetting this lady's name?
Jennifer Coolidge.
Jennifer Coolidge, thank you. She has an absolutely incredible Jennifer Coolidge impression, and so that was really funny, and I saw some clips of that, but check it out if you haven't seen it. And what else I want to know have we been seeing, because I want to do a little edition of what you've been watching, what you're watching. And so, Fat Thor, I will throw it to you first. We can add in what you've been reading. I know you're a big comics guy, another co-host of the Comic Corner Pod. So what you've been watching, what you've been reading?
Well, I mean, a little bit of everything. Absolute Batman just came out this last week, which was incredible. One of the best issues this year. I'm still on my Bond kick. I watched Spectre the other day. Didn't enjoy it as much as No Time to Die, but still great. We love Daniel Craig over here. And yeah, Alan Moore Swamp Thing. Perfect recommendation for the spooky season. So if y'all are looking for a good spooky season comic, definitely recommend that.
I'm deep in I'm in my Suits rewatch, but I got to do a double feature this week. I watched The Wild Robot and Transformers 1. Transformers 1, I'm happy I did it first because wow, did The Wild Robot ever break me. But Transformers 1, really, really good movie. Great Transformers origin story, beautiful visuals. And then The Wild Robot after it. What an incredible film. I was crying throughout the whole thing. It had so many themes surrounding parenting that I think being a new dad definitely impacted my emotions for it. But such a good film. A couple days later, it's Canadian Thanksgiving today as we record this in Canada. And I had over the weekend Thanksgiving at my sister's place. And I'm talking to my niece and nephew who just are returning from being at The Wild Robot when we get there. And I'm kind of thinking like, they'll be like, oh yeah, it was, it was good. It was fine. It was whatever. And my nephew bursts in the door. He's 12 years old right now, going into the 7th grade. And that was the best animated movie I've ever seen in my life. I was like, wow, this kid gets it. Let's go. And so really enjoyed The Wild Robot. And if you haven't checked that one out yet, definitely go see it in the theater. Damon, how about you? What you've been watching? What you've been reading?
I'm so sorry. I'm about to kill this entire wholesome vibe. I've been, as you know, on my horror kick. Jamie will be very happy to know I rewatched a classic In Jennifer's Body the other week, last week. And if that is not the most late 2000s movie to ever movie, then like, I don't know what is. But it went crazier from there because then I saw Terrifier 3 on opening night. The vibes in there were immaculate. Nothing like being in a crowd full of people really excited to see a Terrifier movie. And if you've never seen a Terrifier movie, I don't even know if I'd recommend it unless if you're just doing it out of curiosity or if it's something you like. If it's not something you like, just don't even bother. But there's actually, outside of the just in fantastic use of practical effects in sound design, some very wild, like religious undertones in that movie. That's just kind of like the seeding plot line throughout. Very biblical. I had a lot of fun with it. It's a wild experience.
Check out if you're into gore, if you're into scare, if you're into spooky, Check out Terrifier
It's-
3 in theaters.
I don't know if I call it spooky, TJ.
And the other thing that's been occupying a lot of my time when I'm not writing or doing Penguin Only Murders in the Building and Agatha is I've been playing a lot of Dragon Ball Sparkling Zero. I'm not super typically into games that are just very focused on the fights and not so much focused on the stories, but I am having a lot of fun with this because when going through the story fights, if you end them differently than they do in the show or the manga, it provides like different what if scenarios. So if you win a fight that in the show they lose, it provides you different scenarios with different dialogue and story that didn't actually happen in the series. So that's been a lot of fun as well. Jamie, what you been watching?
Very similar to Damon. On Saturday, Tony and I had what we called a Spooky Jam marathon. We watched 7 movies, except they weren't spooky. We should have called it Effed Up Marathon. We watched so many disturbing movies. And the 2 that I will shout out is Lars von Trier's The House That Jack Built, which is, if you're not an existing Lars von Trier fan, do not sit through this 2.5-hour movie. His movies are difficult, but this I thought was actually really funny and gross and disturbing. But oh gosh, Lars von Trier is a very interesting filmmaker. And then we watched 1999 Japanese horror called Audition by Takashi Miike, I believe is how you say the director's last name. And that movie made me feel physically ill. I literally gagged, and I don't like, not in the fun way. Like I was like, I had to, like, there was a moment where I had to close my eyes, and that's not something I need to do a lot. But it was a very, very good, very well made film. It starts off feeling like a rom-com, and then it just really devolves. So those 2. And then yesterday I took a spooky season break and I watched I had a Cristin Milioti double feature, and I rewatched The Wolf of Wall Street, which is my favorite Scorsese film. I love that movie so much. I think it's one of the top 5 funniest movies ever made. And Palm Springs, which I think is just the best rom-com of the 2020s so far. It was a delightful little break from the season. I needed a break after Saturday.
Gagged and not in a good way. There's so many different ways that could be taken. But we don't have to harp on it for too long. You're watching us on YouTube.
I get that, though. I get it.
You're watching us on YouTube. Smash that like button, caress it, press it, smash it, whatever works for you. But hit the like button. It helps us battle the YouTube algorithm, helps us get noticed, helps us grow this community. Come hang out with us, hang out and chat. We'll be live on Wednesday for episode 6 of Agatha All Along. I still don't know for sure if that's going to be a live show hosted by our guy Fat Thor, just per usual, on our Twitch. Or hopefully I'll know by the later today. Still waiting on the Sheraton in New York, Times Square, to call me back. Hopefully we'll be booking a meeting room there, and we'll be doing the live show in person in New York City with myself, Damon, and Rachel Leishman. So stay tuned for that. And while at New York Comic Con, we got a lot of really exciting stuff coming. Confirmed already. I have an interview with Bear McCreary, who is, of course, composer of brand new show like Rings of Power, but also favorites here on the pod, and Jamie's favorite as well, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And so best believe I'll be talking to him about that. I got a roundtable set up for an upcoming show called Hysteria with Bruce Campbell, who just revealed that, he's got big future role in the MCU, and it's not just Pizza Papa. So maybe I'll try and get him I'll poke the bear on that a little bit. And as well as Anna Camp, who you may know from Pitch Perfect, and as well as Julie Bowen from Modern Family. So that should be a lot of fun. And then there's some really great panels. I'll be at a Sony panel where they're supposedly revealing a lot of stuff from Venom and Kraven the Hunter. So hoping we get Tom Hardy, Aaron Taylor Johnson in attendance for that one. That could be fun. And then on Saturday, we got Creature Commandos panel with them revealing new stuff with that one. James Gunn will be there. So really, really looking forward to New York Comic Con, and we're going to have lots of great content coming. So make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of it. Let's talk about episode 4 of The Penguin, Sent Annie. This one was special. We can go kind of general thoughts of the episode as a whole, but it's going to be tough to discuss that without discussing Cristin Milioti's performance, which, my goodness, was just absolutely incredible. Fat Thor, what'd you think about episode 4?
It was easily my favorite of the episodes we've seen so far, which is, I think, high praise because we praised episode 3 just as heavily. But man, they just knocked it out of the park. And something I mentioned really quickly before, something I really love is, obviously we love Colin Farrell. Obviously, you know, he's the heart of the show, what drives the show. But I really appreciate, especially in these last 2 episodes, that we're really diving into the side characters. And not only that, but it feels like the show can stand on its own 2 feet, even if we're not centering on Penguin Colin Farrell every single episode. And I think that really makes it feel a little bit more fleshed out. It really makes the pacing, I think, a little better, and not every episode's like, oh, how Penguin's going to get out of this one, right? Which we love. But I like, you know, branching out a little bit more. I think that's great.
It's pretty wild how every episode of The Penguin that we watch, it's like, wow, this show's really good. And then the next episode, each time, it's like, wow, this one was even better. And what I really do appreciate about this show is, it's like you said, Fat Thor, we're getting into dive into these side characters, but it also feels like it just is kind of fitting in perfectly with the story. The one thing, there's so much great television on right now, and I'm adoring Agatha all along. But if I were to have a small qualm, it's basically the same as every single thing that Disney Plus ever puts out. And it's that I need more episodes or I need longer runtimes. And 9 episodes, Agatha and Penguin both, but with the Penguin being 8, sorry. But the Penguin with them being an hour long each time. When you have these incredible characters like we do in both of these shows, I love getting the time to dive into them and spend time getting to know their character without feeling like, well, oh shit, there's not much left. Which, to be fair, shouldn't really be comparing this to Agatha because I don't have those feelings with Agatha, but just all of the Disney Plus shows in general. Penguin only being 8 episodes, initial thought is ugh for me, because I want to get back to TV where, you know, even our primetime HBO stuff, it's 13, and anything else, any normal season of television, it's 20 plus. But having said that, these hour-long episodes really make me not worry about the pacing with this show. And it was, I agree with you 100%. I love the time we get to spend with these side characters. And I think the runtime really allows us to do that. Damon, what'd you think of episode 4?
It's fantastic. And I can't compare those 2 shows, honestly. They're just so
incredibly different. Halfway through, I realized, like, this is not the comparison I wanted to be making. I can't, so I need to
incomparable. I'm not comparing, like, a CBS sitcom to an HBO masterclass type of thing.
Basically, like, the thing I wanted to get out was I want more time with the shows that I love, and the Penguin is providing me with that, and I like it.
Sure. No, it's just quality television. It's quality storytelling, quality acting, it's quality production. It's a quality television show. In, week out, they're showing that they put a lot of money into this. And it feels like it, but in a good way. And that's the best thing I could say about this.
Jamie, you know award shows better than... Your knowledge of award shows is better than the 3 of ours put together. Did Cristin Milioti secure an Emmy nomination with The Penguin episode 4?
100%. I would be shocked if she didn't get an Emmy nomination. But right now, I don't know if it's would be for a drama or for a limited series. I don't like Agatha. We know for certain is a limited series, and I would love if this was a drama and like wouldn't, because if it and Agatha are going up in limited series, I do not want these shows against each other. Like I do not want people comparing these shows because they are. They begin and end with their comic book villain stories, but also don't feel like I've eaten this good from Marvel and DC at the same time. I can't remember the last time I felt this way, where I'm like, every few days I have an amazing comic book show. It's crazy. But honestly, because of how well Watchmen did for HBO, I think Penguin has absolutely the chance to crush at award season, because Watchmen absolutely dominated in 2020 the Emmys. So I think that we are good. But I loved, obviously, this. We talked about this last week, but this show to me is just a character study. I don't really care what's going to happen. I do not care. I just want to watch more of these people and these performances. It's fantastic.
Damon, what did you think of Cristin Milioti's performance? Someone who you've been a fan of for a very long time, getting to see a very different side of her in this show.
Yeah, Tracy, what the hell happened to you, girl? Like, good grief. Oh, poor Tracy. I mean, you actually get a little bit of it when she's going up, she's talking about trying to raise money and doing things for like girls in this city. And it's like, I'm getting a little bit of that type of performance, just a little bit here, because the rest of it is so hurt. Just pure betrayal and hurt from outside of that. And she can obviously, we talked about before, this is our 4th episode, really our 3rd episode, really talking about how she's able to just act with her eyes and this just the perspective she's able to bring just by widening them just a little bit, because you don't know if she's, you know, putting on a performance like we've seen her do in the past, or she's actually just physically so angry in that role that you just feel for her now. Her performance here in this show is just so good. And I can't think of like any better way than just say, if she isn't nominated for anything, there needs to be an audit, a study, something, because she is that incredible here.
I'm already upset at the lack of sympathizer in this 2020 this last Emmys, and so I'm very gonna be flipping some tables if we don't get our Cristin Milioti in this one. But I wanted to add to Jamie's point earlier. I forgot what I was gonna say, and then it just popped back in. I agree. We really haven't been eating this good as Marvel and DC fans together, getting them both each and every week. And even though we're at probably the worst period ever of online toxicity while being in fandoms, we're really upcoming on an absolute freaking golden age of being fans of both of these products as the MCU expands in new ways and James Gunn takes over the DC universe. Like next year, we're going to be Fantastic Four and Superman. How do we want to plan out this content to make sure we get to hit all of these? How do we, what if we're like, I don't know how the dates are going to stack up, but what if the next time this happens is Daredevil, Born Again, and Lanterns on HBO? And just each week we get these 2 shows. Like, could you imagine? We're going to be getting lots of cases like this for a long time, and I'm really, really excited. Fat Thor, what do you think of Cristin Milioti's performance, and especially getting to see her pre all of this, when pre all of Arkham, when we get to see the beginning of the flashback with her foundation?
Excuse me, I absolutely loved all of it. I think it just gave so much more context to the character. We talked in our other episodes how like sometimes we don't really know where she is on that line. Like, is she, you know, planning and like putting on a show? Is she like, you know, just mentally ill? And I think, at least for me, this one solidified for me, like she's not. Like, she's just someone who was, you know, shoved away into this terrible situation, and no one listened to her and no one, you know, believed her. And I mean, who wouldn't have a couple screws loose after that, right? So it really just recontextualized her whole deal for me. And to Damon's point too, like her ability to act through her eyes in this episode, it just shines so much. There was one, I can't remember the specific moment, but for me, there was a moment before she meets with her brother in Arkham. And like, for me, I felt like you could just see the snap. Like, you could see that turn. I think when she's talking to the doctor and he said, you know, she realizes like, you don't believe me. I felt like you could just see that kind of turn. Like, I'm not getting out of here. I'm stuck here. And yeah, just, I mean, I would even go as far as say she might squeeze out best performance of the entire show. Even Colin Farrell, who's obviously incredible.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm with you there 100%. She was absolutely incredible. And it's, like you said, I think there was a clear, and like Jamie said earlier, with this being a character study, we didn't really know why Sofia behaves the way she behaves throughout the first 3 episodes. And through this one, we see, yeah, there are some difficulties she has because she's gone through some intense trauma. But this is somebody who has been plotting for the last 10 years how to get her family back and how to not necessarily get the family members back, but get back control, get back power after it was so.
Get back what she's owed.
Get back what she's owed. Exactly. Take it from here, Damon.
Yeah, I mean, it sets it all up very, very well. We get to see Carmine back in this episode, different actor from the Batman movie, but we see how it all began and how it all ended. It was all rightfully hers. Carmine said, "Your brother's a screw up. You're the only one I trust in this scenario." But as she's starting to question parts of her past, having to deal with the death of her mother, having to then deal with the deaths around the city and questioning things. And I feel like deep down, she was really, truly trying to be like, my dad didn't really do this. Like, she was truly looking for not an excuse, but like an alibi in a way. I really feel like she was truly looking for it. But there's that voice inside her head that says something's not adding up, because deep down, I know the truth in a way. And when you start to see the family turn against her, it all comes back to Carmine in the end. He calls all the shots. So the second that she talks to press, he's after her and she's dead to him, like completely dead to him. He got the entire family to turn. And yeah, it does come back to Oz ratting her out a bit, but honestly, like, I feel like he would have found out anyway. Like, in my opinion, I feel like he would have found out anyway, but it does show like why she doesn't trust Oz, and totally rightfully so. In so many ways, she is not even so many ways. She is the victim in this whole show. Like, she really is. And as TJ Fat Thor mentioned, like, when she's going through Arkham and you see the torture she's getting put under, and she essentially has to become and is forced to become the person that Carmine always wanted her to be. And that's the most twisted aspect of this.
The parenting, the parental trauma hits hard in this episode with, unless your parent is just terrible to you from the moment you're born. Most kids grow up with a complex of, my parents are perfect, they would do no wrong, at a very young age, obviously until they kind of hit into the teens, but a very young age. And you can see that kind of, when you undergo trauma at a very early age, there are parts of your brain, psychology degree coming in here, there are parts of your brain that essentially get trapped at that stage until you work through your trauma. They essentially get trapped in your childhood brain. And you can see that progressing into who Sofia is as an adult. Even though she undergoes the traumatic experience, seeing her mother there are clear signs of it's not what it seems when she sees it as a kid. But your childhood mind, no, my parents are my idols, my parents are my heroes, they would never do anything wrong. And so that gets repressed and repressed and repressed until all of a sudden it all comes out and she realizes, shit, my dad is the hangman. Jamie, what did you think of Sofia's pre-Arkham into Arkham story and Mark Strong's portrayal of Carmine Falcone?
Yeah, going off what Damon said, I think like the real tragedy of this episode is she was just a little curious. She wasn't going to that reporter to expose her father. I don't think any part of her had planned to do that. And like, he turned on her so quick. Like, she didn't even get a little warning. Like, it was kind of shocking. But I mean, if you're the kind of guy that would kill your wife and 6 other women, I guess that's, it really isn't that surprising. I love Mark Strong. I also love John Turturro. I think that Mark Strong's a great choice to go in there. I'd be very interested though to have seen what John Turturro would have done with this side of Carmine, because it would be an. I feel like I see Mark Strong play villains more than I see John Turturro play villains, if that makes sense. But I love Mark Strong so much. Shout out to my Stardust fans out there. Yeah, everything about it is like, and it is cool we spent 3 episodes thinking she was crazy. Like, we thought this woman was nuts. And it's like, oh no, I'm part of the problem. I'm like everyone else in this show who sees her incorrectly. Oh no, they got me.
100%. And I want to keep it with you for your thoughts on Oz's portrayal, because I think it says a lot about his character as well. And any character who wants to maintain some type of code while also questing for power. And because that's very prevalent in, I'm rewatching Suits right now as well. And that's so often throughout. It's like, we want to win all the time. We want to be at the top, but we're also the good guys, except for these times where we're crossing lines and going against our morals and our ethics. And Penguin, even though he is a bad guy, we've seen him want to be a ruler or a leader that's benevolent, that takes care of his community. But anytime there's a moment where he can just undercut someone to get ahead, he seems to do it.
Yeah, I think that it's kind of sad because I think he genuinely did care about her. I think that they did have a nice little relationship, but Penguin's always going to put Penguin number one. Oz is always the most important. And obviously, I don't think he thought that Carmine was going to throw his daughter in Arkham for a decade. Like, I don't know if he would have done it if he had known that, but it's definitely not his fault, but he was the first step in facilitating what happened to her. I like, to the point where she came back and still was like willing to trust him again. You know, it wasn't like what her family did. That was way more egregious, but clearly she shouldn't have trusted him. He can't be trusted. I want to trust you, sir, but you're not laying it down.
It's so interesting how they've pieced this show together with making Sofia almost look like a antagonist / partnership figure through the first 3 episodes, while now swapping that to going, she's the clear victim of scenario and probably the one most of us will want to cheer for now going forward. How do you think that's going to impact things with her, Oz, Vic, Damon? Because it's like Fat Thor said going into this, we get to see all of these different characters and spend time with them, and I don't know who I'm cheering for anymore.
Look, in reality, we shouldn't be cheering for any of these people. Let's be honest. They're all bad
I'm cheering
people.
for Sofia at all. I don't care what she does anymore. She has stolen my heart.
There's no good people in this show.
Vic's a good guy.
Be honest. Vic is another victim of all of this, right? He is. But there's no Batman in here, TJ. There's no like indisputable quote unquote good guy. They're all very problematic characters, but that's what makes this interesting, is because they find bits and pieces outside of mostly just like all of the Falcones. You kind of are like, I don't care what happens to you guys, because you guys got what's coming. But you get a little bit of like sympathy for Oz, because you can see he's just trying to move up in the world and do good by his mother and help her out. And then obviously by the end of this episode, we truly feel for Sofia. But she's also, TJ, I need to sit you down, not a great good person. Okay.
Well, that was another version of multiverse versus consciousness traveling. That was another one of those that we hit on that, and I liked it. Fat Thor. I do want to, just because it reminded me of this when I said Vic's a good person. There was a piece of Penguin promotional art this week that came out that you sent me a picture of that goes kind of together with something we've been talking about last episode.
Yes, it does. And first off, I just want to push back on Damon a little bit because it's fun. The caretaker, I would say the caretaker that takes care of Oz's mom, he seems like a very sweet guy.
Okay.
So
okay.
I think,
all right.
There is some nice people here.
Fair enough.
But yes, so like TJ said, we've been theorizing. I think, TJ, this was your theory originally. But the kind of parallels between Jason Todd, Robin, and Vic in this series, Penguin kind of takes him under his wing, catches him stealing the car, very much like Jason Todd. And so there was just some promotional images released like the other day that shows
I want to see actually if I was so tired when you showed this to me, and so I didn't actually notice anything different. But I'm gonna see if I can throw it up on the screen
Christmas,
here.
if you show me a photo of this kid wearing a red hood.
No, not that.
I didn't
right,
notice it. I didn't notice it at all. So I want to see how
Yeah.
quick Jamie and Damon pick up on it.
I was like, okay, I
Because
won't
it's
say
so
anything
obvious
then.
when you see it, but so subtle until you do.
There we go.
There's
Oh,
a new photo of Vic here. He's got the slush puppy.
Pipe on the bottom where he's
And
holding
his
the
shadow
Yeah.
is of somebody holding a pipe, who, of course, Jason Todd got the crap beat out of him with a pipe by Joker. And that's what led to his quote-unquote death and him becoming the Red Hood eventually. So interesting promotional art there. And sorry, Fat Thor, back to you.
No, I mean, you hit it on the head. Like I said, very much parallel to Jason Todd, which makes me worried for our boy Vic. I really hope he makes it out of this. We've talked about this before. I really do. But if I can throw out a little theory time for everybody. We talked about, again, the Jason Todd parallels. After this episode, I'm kind of thinking maybe that's Sofia with the pipe, with the iron. Like if we do go that route, because like you were just saying, how's this relationship all going to work out now that Sofia knows Oz did betray her? We got that episode with Vic where, like, you know, Vic's fully in now. So I'm worried. I'm very
TJ,
worried.
can you put that back up? I just want to say something real quick about this. I think this is just more of a commentary. As fun as that would be, I think this is more of a commentary on just how there's two sides to everybody.
I think it has to do with the fact that this kid was once, he's drinking Slurpees, but now he's a weapon. I think it's about him brandishing a weapon, not the way he will ultimately die.
I hope so. I hope so much. I'm with you guys. I really hope so.
I totally read into the whole. I didn't see the crowbar at first, and I was like, blue and black Nightwing? I was like, where are we going with this?
I looked at it, I was like, his eyes are really red. He's super stoned drinking a Slurpee. What am I looking at? Let's take it to the time in Arkham specifically, and Fat Thor, I'll start with you because we get more character introductions, some from ripped straight from DC Comics. Margaret Pye, Magpie. We get Dr. Ventris, who I admit I have no idea if that's someone from DC Comics or not. And just this aggressive torture to Sofia throughout, as well as the introduction of Bliss, which it kind of seemed like my knowledge was she seemed to have avoided it for most of her time in Arkham. It doesn't even look to me like after the 10 years, we didn't see it, but the vibe I got was she was just like, I'm good. I'm going to avoid this and begin plotting my time on the outside.
Yeah, that was actually a question I was going to throw to you guys is, do you think like she eventually started taking the Bliss? Because I don't think so. I think she, in my opinion, again, this episode really contextualizes her kind of motivations through everything. And again, I think she is planning, like you said, Teach, to take revenge on her family, to take back what was hers. So I really think that she was observing. Like she was observing, what does this Bliss do? How does it affect everyone? And that is what, you know, triggered her whole plan that I think we have yet to even see the full ramifications of, like her full plan. I think, you know, she's got something else up her sleeve. So yeah, I don't think she took it. I think she used that time to plan, but it was just like, it was heartbreaking to watch, honestly. Like it was very sad. Damon, I again think you nailed it on the head when you said, like, you know, she's a victim in all this. Like this whole thing, she was just a victim and was, again, forced to be turned into this person. And it was super sad. And then I didn't even realize, I forgot how much time she was in there. Like I know they mentioned it in previous episodes. So like when we see the 6 months and then they say like, oh, she was in there for 10 years. It's just like, oh my gosh, like imagine what we just saw for a year, 2 years, let alone a decade. Like it was just super sad. And like I said, just really made me look at Sofia's character in an entirely new light.
Damon, what were your biggest takeaways from the time in Arkham outside of just how incredible Cristin Milioti's performance was? Because we get these new characters, we get Ventris, we get Magpie. We also get to see her relationship with Dr. Rush throughout this, and him fully partaking for the first 6 months, realizing what's been going on and that she's been telling the truth and essentially trying to get the hell out of there. What were your takeaways from getting to see the inside of Arkham Asylum in the Penguin?
Dude, Arkham's freaky, as it should be. But like, god dang, they pulled no punches when showing the worst possible cruelty of like prison life, like the worst possible version of it. And yeah, like, you know, we mentioned there's some fun little DC cameos, like Magpie's there, who's just like a little jewel thief, and she didn't last very long.
That was the snap you were talking about earlier, where she's like, I can't get out. Or that might have been Fat Thor, but like, I can't get out of here. I am stuck. I am trapped. Screw this. Bang, Magpie's gone.
Yeah, she didn't last very long. So I hope no one for the Batman 2 is expecting to see a Magpie cameo in there, because sorry guys, I don't think that's happening anymore.
She was freaky too. Like when she's like talking in the vent, I was like, ooh, that's kind of scary. Like we're getting some.
I thought it was a
vibes.
little girl at first.
Yeah, she's got this kind of voice.
Ooh, so
I'm
scary.
Like,
Which
I'm
are
throwing my back
probably
in my head,
like,
I'm like, okay, well, like what little kid could possibly be in Arkham? Obviously, they end up she just having that high pitch, like almost like that creepy childlike voice.
there's the stereotypical kinds of scary voices of like, doom is coming. You know, like the very low, the very, I wasn't a good one, but like the very low, raspy bad guy. But I don't think there's anything scarier than like a high childlike woman voice, child like girl voice, little girl, like 5 years old, possessed by a demon sounding voice. That is probably the scariest kind of voice out there. What were your takeaways from Arkham Asylum, Jamie?
It's funny because growing up on Joel Schumacher, and then like my favorite current DC thing is the Harley Quinn animated series. So like I'm so used to like Arkham's kooky. Arkham's a silly, colorful place, and I was like, oh yeah, this is a prison filled with mentally ill criminals. It's so scary. The woman who attacked her afterwards, Tony like called out her performance first. He was like, that woman was scary. Like and like the stabbing with the fork in the neck. I don't like neck stuff, like throat stuff. I hate when people's throats get slit and stuff. It like really gives me shivers, and that was rough to watch. I do think it's funny that it's like, Magpie, we know her. Oh, never mind. She did.
We knew her.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We knew her.
It's funny because like I feel like in shows where in times when we do see Arkham, like even at the end of the Batman, it's like, oh look, Joker's in there. So I kind of expected almost to see like more Easter eggs of characters, and I was surprised that we didn't really get that. And I'm like, and it's I think the first time I've seen Arkham separated by gender, which is like how prisons work. Like I feel like in other iterations they're just like all it's like co-ed dorms. Weirdly, and so it felt like realistic in a really upsetting way.
Like the shock therapy stuff, that's the stuff that got to me out of everything. Like I know, like we're talking like some like the gore elements of like the violence and stuff, but the shock therapy like actually messed me up the most out of all this. And I've been watching some pretty messed up stuff.
I'd say that this might even be one of like the closer looks we've gotten in Arkham. Kind of like I feel like usually we'll see, you know, Batman interrogate someone or like, you know, something like that, but we really like got to spend time there, and you know, you hear about how it's corrupt and all this, and I just feel like this is like kind of one of the first times we've really dived into that, which I thought was cool.
The electrotherapy is absolutely what hit me the hardest too, Damon. Like, as I've been diagnosed, you know, with depression, anxiety, PTSD, ADHD, but for the most part, through years of, you know, counseling and finding the right medication, I've got it under control for the most part. But still, the time that I get my worst panic attacks are situations that I don't have any outs, that I can't think like, okay, well, if this happens, I'll do this. If this happens, I'll do this. If this happens, I can call this person and they can call that person. This is how we'll handle it. Even if things look incredibly grim, when shit's hitting the fan, that's typically when my mental health is at its best. I can problem solve. I can help. But it's when there are no options that I freak out and I just can't contain, like I'm not okay. And so something about, you know, being in jail, being in a prison, being in a cage, I almost still feel like, okay, well, you know, I'll get really good at push-ups and I'll sleep as much as I can and I'll keep to myself and eventually one day I'll be free. But that electrotherapy,
I respect it.
That's just like, that's how my brain goes. But the electrotherapy where it's like, I did nothing wrong. I'm being framed. No one will listen to me. And now I'm strapped down and about to be electrocuted because of it. It's like just that intense feeling of being trapped was absolutely terrifying. Jamie, I want to throw this back to you. When we flash back to the present, we kind of get more pieces of this relationship between Sofia and Dr. Rush. We've theorized in the past that, like, is this guy somebody else? Is he Hugo Strange? I don't think he actually is anymore. I think this is just Dr. Julian Rush and is a character, a part of Sofia's story. What do you think about their relationship of he's the guy she calls when her back's against the wall, but it also calls him right out afterwards as soon as he helps her recover?
He deserved that because, like, yes, he was her strongest ally, but she was still in there for 10 years. Like, and like she said, he eventually left. Like, it's nice of him that he helped eventually. Sure, he's the least problematic of everybody around, but I'm glad she kind of gave it to him a little bit, and like in a flirty way, because listen, she's sexy, she's very attractive, and yeah, use that. Why wouldn't you use that if you have it? It's just like Clayface is probably using it, right? No, I just like I don't really have strong feelings about this man. I don't want it to get romantic. I'm even after all that I've learned, there's still a small part of me that wants Sofia and us to be a couple, which I don't think will ever happen. But there is that small shipper part of me that's like, it could work.
Damon, what do you think about their relationship and the flash forward to the present? Also, just because I love a good argument, I want to give you a chance to go at Jamie about her love for the Harley Quinn show because of how they traumatized you in the most recent season.
Show's dead to me, Jamie. Show's dead to me.
What did it do
How
to you?
dare they do that to my boy Nightwing? How dare they?
Back. Come on.
How dare they? DC Family Guy has taken me away and thrown me out back and just did terrible things and made me watch that. No, I am not watching it for what it's worth. that was the one thing that I was just like, I can't. I'm totally cool. It's like, oh yeah, the butt jokes. It's
That's
Nightwing.
So good. The butt jokes are hilarious.
Or let's make him overly broody. All in on that because it's funny. Don't kill the poor lad. He's been through enough.
But the season ended with him getting resurrected. He's coming back.
I didn't even make it that far, TJ.
Well, that's your problem, Damon.
That is my problem.
I
and
think
you know what? Maybe now I'll give it another chance.
I think I've won.
Damon cannot stick with the gaffs. He can't stick with the gag. Once it's done, he's done with it.
I have biased on both sides. I love Nightwing, and I wanted Jamie to win. And so I think that evens it out. And as the moderator, I go.
You just wanted to see me lose. I understand.
All right, David, talk to me about the relationship with Rush and Sofia. Do you think there's more to his character, or he's just kind of there to play this part?
Yeah, I hope there's not more. And he's like, oh, he's secretly the Scarecrow, and I'm like, okay. Like, I don't need that. I don't need any of that in this show. And even
except
when
for Clayface,
except for Clayface, that needs to happen. What Jamie said though about like, yeah, he deserved that, because what did I say earlier, TJ? There's very few good people in this show, and even him, who's like, he's maybe the most good, is still has like a whole lot of, yeah, you deserve crap because you could have helped to get her out of there. Carmine probably would have taken her head off in the making, but you could have tried a little harder and made her stay there for another decade, 9.5 years, before you finally help out. So, yeah, he's not a great guy either.
She gets out like a good 2 years after, a year and a half, 2 years after Batman has started being Batman. As soon as this dude shows up, go to him and be like, hey, man, you got to check out this asylum because they're doing some shady shit. Fat Thor, how about you? Do you think there's anything behind his character?
Yeah, I still don't trust him. Unfortunately, I have to agree with Damon on this one. I'm abandoning my Scarecrow thing. We talked about how he and in that, I hope he's not anybody. Like I said, I agree with Damon, but I will say I still don't trust him. I think there's more to him, not in like the cameo aspect of like he's a villain, but what was he doing over that 10 years? And like when he said like, oh, well, I tried, I just felt like that answer was very ambiguous. So I think he was doing something behind the scenes that was against Sofia's interest. And as far as Sofia goes, so I think she is 100% just playing this dude. Like she said, like, you know, oh, I saw the way you looked at me. She knows that he at least is like a little interested in her, and she's going to use that to whatever end she had. Like she's got a job for him after this meeting. Like she's got something for him to do. And I think she's just going to leverage that kind of, you know, relationship until she gets what she wants. Sure.
Let's see, he's clearly in on some sort of drug game, because when she opened up that drawer, he still had a bottle of pills, including those red gooey ones. So he's clearly in on something.
I mean, yeah, I can't trust that dude at all. I don't think he's good at all. Like, not even a little bit.
Because nobody's good.
There is...
Except the caretaker.
I'm going straight off of Wikipedia here.
Oh, boy.
But
that's dangerous.
Just so bear in mind, I know nothing about this character's potential comic origin. This is straight Wikipedia. Batman writes a letter to the Gotham Gazette about the times they thought he was falsely exposed as Bruce Wayne. This causes Mirror Man to try and get a similar image of Batman, which creates Mirror Man as someone who is in the Gotham State Penitentiary, but targeted Batman to try and reveal his identity. That was his main thing.
You're talking about
want to reveal Batman's identity. And what is his name? Floyd Ventris. Another last name of a character appearing in this show. Dr. Ventris. Is that Mirror Man hanging out in Arkham Asylum? Or is just another person with the same last name? Damon's going to say sure.
Sure.
Something to speculate. I just want to throw out there that I don't know, but he's popped up in Crisis in Infinite Earths. He's popped up working with Ra's al Ghul. Ventris is the last name of another Batman villain that is appearing in this show, Mirror Man. Dr. Ventris was the name of a character that was working on Sofia the entire time there. They also did bring up that there was like 3-4 different doctors throughout her time there, kind of showing that maybe there was a Hugo Strange there at some point, or maybe he pops in at the end of this show. But, and I'll throw it to Jamie first for this one, my favorite scene, I think, in the whole episode was the Santani part, the toast, where she pops back into the house looking real good, interrupts the family dinner, steals the toast, steals the whole show.
Well, first, let me say I'm getting a haircut tomorrow, and I will be taking a picture of her in that scene to my hairdresser. She looks amazing. Yeah,
I'm getting a haircut tomorrow too.
Oh, look at
I'm not going to do that one because I don't think I could pull it off.
I don't think you're
but
quite
I'm getting
there.
a haircut tomorrow too.
Yeah, this scene was fantastic. I am sad that like I really wanted more Scott Cohen, and like now we're done with Scott Cohen, but that's okay. That was her scene, right? I think that was like the solidified the Emmy nomination right there. And it's interesting because they all do seem a little afraid of her, and it's not because they like I think they've convinced themselves they believe their lies. They do think she's crazy. They've just like it's been 10 years. I think that when people do things like that, you start to believe it, and that's why they sent the little girl away, because I really do think
they're afraid of her for that reason, because they've convinced themselves, but also they know she was the one that was supposed to take it all over because she's capable, because she's smart, because she was the next Carmine. I think they're scared of her, one, because I agree with you. I think they believe their lies and think she's crazy, but also because they know she could probably take them out.
She sure can.
Sorry, I didn't mean to continue to cut you off. Feel free.
No, that was it. That was pretty much it. It was a great scene, great dress, great hair, great meatballs. I love that she ate the meatball with her hands. That was great.
I love this part. Sorry, I should have. This is why you don't cut people off, TJ. You just let them finish. But I love the part with the niece, the daughter as well, of how their relationship feels very interesting in the sense of she's clearly manipulating and gaslighting this child into, in a way, keeping her on her side, but more so just to keep her safe of the situation so that she doesn't, die with all the rest of them. But it's such an interesting. I'm gonna do something really terrible to you, but I still love you, Damon. What did you think of Sofia's scene? And you clearly got a point here too.
I think it's more that she was genuinely worried for that child, because when you go back to the scene where she saw her earlier and she said straight to her, powerful women are not like being scared of it in this family, but they're like, yeah, go on.
It adds so much context to that earlier scene where they see each other for the first time.
Yeah, she essentially says like they're scared of powerful women in this family, so be careful. And she is straight up protecting her throughout this entire thing, because she probably looks at her as like a little version of herself because she sees that she's very capable. Jamie, you have a point.
There's also though like this cycle of this family, and like because this little girl is going to grow up probably with Sofia, and then there's going to be a time where she realizes, just like Sofia realized about her father, oh, this adult that I love and took care of me killed my mother, killed my father, killed my parents. Like there's a cycle in these. That's kind of what mafia stories are, though. That's like literally that's what ultimately is what this show is.
It's a really good point. Fat Thor, what do you think?
I was just shocked. I was not expecting it to go down that way. I mean, I thought she was going to take out, the main dude, but man, everyone, like even that lady was awful, but I was like, dang, she killed her mom.
Every single one of
them. But yeah, just like, yeah, which I watched this a little late, so I gotta ask you guys because I was a little confused on this. She shot everyone, right? Like she didn't like do the gas didn't like poison them. Like she went through and like straight up killed everyone, right?
No, she took the kid out of the house and then used the gas. My understanding was that it was carbon monoxide poisoning.
That's what I thought. It was
that's what I put in my review was carbon monoxide, but I'm not positive about that.
Okay, well, when she grabbed the gun, that's why I was like, oh, did she just pop everyone? Like, that's crazy.
That was just to threaten Johnny, because she left Johnny's window open because she needs him. She needs, and I'm excited to see how that relationship grows, because, like, what the heck is he going to do? He has, he has no choice.
Yeah, so, yeah, I mean, I loved it, and I mean, y'all just crushed it on that. I really don't have anything to add. I didn't even consider, like you said, the generational thing, and like with this girl, like now her mom is dead and like she'll probably figure, like I didn't even make that connection. So yeah, great scene, highlight of the episode, among an amazing episode.
I love scenes like that where I have no idea what's coming and they just hit me with it. Like when she's smoking in a room and leaves the window open, I originally think like I have no idea what's going on, and then we come back and we see that window was open to protect Johnny Viti because she needs him. And I think it's interesting that she picks Viti, one, because he kind of knows this game, right? He's got some connections. He knows this game. She thinks she can manipulate him, but also she picked the one who's just been the worst to her. It's like when Carmine or Luca so often are doing some shitty things towards her benefit, it's Viti kind of being the face and being the one that's going to handle it. And so she picks Viti, and Damon, you put the little straw looking thing in your hand up. And so yeah, I know you got something.
Do we raise hands now? Are we gonna raise hands?
That's what I like it. That way I don't cut people off. I know who to throw it to. It balances my ADHD. What do you?
I was gonna say she has blackmail on him. Like she's got dirt on this dude. So this is the one guy in the family that she can so easily do whatever she wants him to do, to like almost like do the dirty work after that point, because the whole family's gone. The whole family's gone, which is like the craziest thing. It's not like, oh, we're going to do one, we're going to do two, like to send a message. She says, no, all of you suck. All of you screwed me over. You're all getting it. And I also thought that when she went into, because theories were going on in my head when she was going into the greenhouse with her niece. And I'm like, is she teaming up with the Maronis now? Are the Maronis going to be the ones to come in to do all the dirty work? But she did all of that herself.
We got Johnny Vitti, Gia, and Sofia Falcone as the only three quote-unquote family members left. Jamie, what do you think's going on with this crew now?
I want to say exactly like Johnny Vitti is family, but he's not family.
Yeah.
He's like, she kept him alive because he's never going to rise to the ranks. He's not a threat to her. He will never be head of the Falcones because he's not a Falcone, but he is connected. I assume he's a made man, because Oz isn't even a made man, she says last week. So it's the politics of, thankfully I watch a lot of Scorsese and I understand the hierarchy of these situations.
Can we take a moment to appreciate this face card from Sofia Falcone and Cristin Milioti? Like, I was writing that article, and apologies to those who are listening to this in podcast form as I throw something up on the screen, but she just, the only word that really comes to mind is just dominant. Like, she's just ready to come in and fuck shit up. There's the one F-bomb. Only one, and it doesn't.
Hey, there it goes.
We're only allowed one. It's PG-13. But she just comes in and she's just nothing to lose. I'm going all out and I'm going to win. And it looks good on her. It looks really good on her. And I'm excited to see what's coming next. Fat Thor, 3 quote unquote family members left. There's Vitti to do the dirty work. There's Gia, the little girl, and there's Sofia. What's Sofia's next move?
I mean, she's taken over. She's taken everything over. Obviously, she has to deal with this Maroni thing, which I would not be surprised if we see a little team up there, especially now that she knows that Oz, betrayed her. And I mean, I think you guys are all right with the Vitti stuff, but I'm going to just go on the opposite route just because I think it would be cool. Is maybe Sofia's just got something a little extra special planned for him. Like you said, he's been the worst to her this whole time. So maybe she's going to make an example of him. Like, yo, don't mess with me. I'm the head of the family now. Look at what I did, and I'll do it to you too. So, like I said, I think you guys are more right where it's going to be more of a partnership, but I think that would be wild. And just kind of, again, really establish her as and among the other families as well. Like, I'm here, I'm in charge, don't mess with me.
I think nobody's wrong. I think it's probably all of the above. She's going to be continuously using him because she needs him, and he will be the first person always in harm's way, the bait that is being dangled. And by the end, when she has no more use for him, he's probably going to go out in a pretty horrific way. And so I think you're probably right. And she's going to be continuously using him for her gain going forward. Damon, any final thoughts from you from episode 4 going into episode 5?
Look, she's going to need some more people. And I know a guy named Tony Zuko who's available.
Tony Zuko's not available. He's at the circus.
He's still at the circus, still there.
Any other final thoughts, or shall I pass to Jamie?
That's it. It's a great show. It's a fantastic show. I got nothing more I can say other than this show has blown me away. I went into this series just being like, we're making a Penguin show. I really like the Batman. I don't know how this show is going to work, but let's see. And it's just turned into something that I look forward to every single week. And it's great.
There are very few characters in the Batman universe that I could give less of a damn about than the Penguin. And they've turned this into
Condiment king.
must-see TV every single week. Jamie, final thoughts.
We got to shout out Lauren LaFranc, who's just crushing it because, you know, a show she used to write for before she was the showrunner of this show was Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So we love to see that connection.
Absolutely, and it's almost like she knows what she's doing a little bit. Knows how to make some pretty damn good television. Jamie, where can the people find you on socials? And pretty big episode of Love in the Time of Hydra just dropped.
Yes, our latest episode of Love in the Time of Hydra, which is out now, we talked about season 2, episode 4, Face My Enemy, and we had both director Kevin Tancherone and writer Drew Z. Greenberg on. It was such a fun episode. They had so many insightful things to say. It was fun to see them reunite. So check that out, Love in the Time of Hydra, all the major pod platforms, at LitoPod on social media. And then you can follow me at Jamie Jirak on Letterboxd, Instagram, and TikTok, and at Jamie Cinematics on Twitter. I attempted to do Fat Thor's suggestion of a Sofia Falcone recap. I recorded it and I edited it, but I don't know if I like it enough to post it. But maybe, keep an eye out. Maybe I'll change my mind.
Just got to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
Damon, Fat Thor, what do we got coming up on the Comic Corner?
Yeah, so this week there's a little thing called New York Comic Con that you and I will be attending, and that is putting a little bit of a halt in our weekly release, but I will be planning something for Thursday. It's probably just going to be this face, because you haven't seen this face enough here on the YouTube channel. You're getting just me. Doing a quick, probably like 10-minute review on Nightwing 118, which is the conclusion of the Tom Taylor Nightwing run, up there with my all-time favorite comic runs. It really is. I am a huge Hawkeye fan. Matt Fraction and David Oz Hawkeye is literally my favorite thing in the world. And this run from Tom Taylor has given it a run for its money. It really has. So if you haven't read it yet, all of Tom Taylor's run, every single trade except the most previous one is out. So go do that. You can even watch, we had our comic book reading club where it was myself and then AF. And we also had fellow agents Brandon and Emma join us because they are two people who don't read comics very often. So I give them comics to read that I think they'll like. And we had a whole roundtable discussion on it and they absolutely loved it. And that means you will too. So go check it out.
And it is too much of your face, but at least it's a pretty face, so I think our viewers will be fine. Fat Thor, anything to add to the Comic Corner or final thoughts before I get out of here?
For Comic Corner, be on the lookout for some cool interviews. Like I said, Damon's going to be at New York Comic Con. I'm sure we'll snag a couple people there. I was lucky enough to talk to a couple people at LA Comic Con and set a couple things up. So definitely keep an eye on the Comic Corner. We're going to have some fun stuff coming up.
We do. We have some fun stuff. A certain Superman writer coming up soon in November. Excited for that.
That just reminded me of Comic Corner related. I'll also be speaking to Robert Kirkman and Joshua Williamson, as well as multiple other creators at New York Comic Con as well. So stay tuned for that one. Like I mentioned, we will be having a Agatha All Along show this week. Don't worry, it's still coming. We don't necessarily just know who is going to be on it or the format yet, who's going to be hosting, what city we're going to be in, but we will make sure that we have it ready for all of you to enjoy. If you're watching us on YouTube, smash the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that good stuff. Help us grow this community so we can keep talking about the Penguin, about Agatha, and all this incredible television we have right now. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone, and we will see you next week for episode 6 of The Penguin. Peace.